Welcome. Welcome to this evening. My name is Paul Barker, and this is all about midlife crisis to midlife calling. And before we get into anything at all, I'd just like you to take a moment to arrive, to let yourself land here. It's already been mentioned that it's a bit warm. So please make sure that you've got everything you need, a glass of water or some other drink, and that you're comfortable. And I suggest is to try and maybe turn the phone the other way up so that you don't get interrupted too much. And also just take a few slow, deep breaths just to help to ground and bring yourself present. Yeah, beautiful. Sometimes going more slowly is actually really nice than rushing at 100 miles an hour in the way that we are find ourselves in the world we live in today. So at some point in midlife, now I will just give a framework here that this is about midlife, but actually I work with transitions of young men. I work with midlife for men and women, and I also work slightly more at the older end of those people moving perhaps towards what can be seen as elderhood. But for tonight, we're going to look at midlife. And that's often a time when what used to work doesn't work anymore. From the outside, everything can appear fine. Yet on the inside, we have that sometimes icky feeling. Sometimes it's an itch you can't scratch. Um, and various questions begin to appear, such as, is this it?
Mhm.
Or how did I get here? Or what next? What now? And what I've come to see over the years is that both in my own life and in working with other people, is actually this isn't a problem. It's quite often made out to be a problem. That's why the title actually is it's the key. It's like midlife crisis, and people see that as a problem. But for me, it's not. It's not something to fix. It's a threshold. It's a moment where life is asking something more of you, asking you perhaps a deeper question on life. And that's what we're going to explore today. How what feels like confusion and sometimes crisis and change might and often is the beginning of something new, a new chapter. And we do it not by forcing answers, but by listening to what's going on within us. So in the next hour, I'm going to take you through a process. As one of my clients often says, he says, "You're my tour guide." So I'm going to volunteer to be your tour guide for this next
Mhm.
hour that can guide you through a process, but that will help you to understand where you are and begin to get a sense of what might be calling you forward. So a couple of little agreements. There's not a lot here in terms of we don't get into it's not a workshop where we get into a lot of sharing and things like that. But if people end up sharing a little bit in the chat, please just whatever's shared here, please keep it here. At the end, I will stay on. If anybody has any questions, wants to speak or talk, please, I'll be here for any questions you've got. But also just in the communication, as I say, I will offer at times to put something in the chat. Just be respectful of each other and the time that we have. I've asked if you've all had a pen and paper, so that's good. So this isn't about fixing ourselves, but it is about beginning to understand where we are. So let's get going. What I'd like you to do, first of all, is introduce yourself in the chat if you can, and just tell us your name and where you're from, but also how one word or a couple of words, how are you arriving? How are you landing this evening? How are you landing? How are you arriving? If you can just put that in the chat, and where you are, your name and where you're from. Thank you, Julie. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Yes, I can relate to each one of those. Very much so. Yes. And it is okay if you don't want to share. I'm not trying to force anybody. I'm just trying to invite to bring our energy and bring you into the group as to what's happening. Okay. I'm going to move on. If you're still typing, don't worry. You could still hear what I'm going to be saying. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. And I want to start with something real, not a theory, not a modality, a story. And that's my story. Because if you found yourself here, perhaps attracted to the title or felt a pull of some description, wondering what's next, wondering why life seems to be shaking things loose around you, well, I do want to say I really have been there. And I'd just like to, offer a small snippet of my own story. Because each of us, again, reaches a point where the old ways stop working and the soul is really calling for something deeper. And this is the opportunity. So, the low point. About 27 years ago, after the breakdown of my marriage, I hit what I now know was my dark wood. I felt utterly lost, ashamed, and alone. I'd lost my sense of worth. And I remember sitting there thinking, how had it come to this? How had I ended up here? I was 38, and if I'm honest, I didn't know who I was anymore. At first, I blamed everyone else. Why? Because facing myself was too painful. And at that time, I came across a quote by a gentleman called Dante, who's a 13th century Italian poet. And these words really struck me. In the middle of the road of my life, I awoke in the dark wood where the true way was wholly lost. I'll read that again. In the middle of the road of my life, I awoke in a dark wood where the true way was wholly lost. And I heard that and I just resonated. That was me. I was completely lost. I was disorientated. I'd lost the map of my own life. So just take a moment. You don't have to do any signs or anything, but just contemplate for yourself. Have you ever felt a sense of that feeling, a sense of, I don't know who I am, I don't know where I am? Maybe even life's not fair. Maybe throwing too many things at you. Those situations where you think, well, how do I go forward from here? Because that really was one of those for me. Yeah. Okay. So the turning point, two small at the time moments, one fairly insignificant and one fairly significant. First of all, I was rummaging through my bedside drawer and I found a business card. And that was the very first thing that changed everything. It led me to a gentleman who became my first, what I call proper teacher and mentor in the world of personal development. Um, so that was the first thing. The second, which changed my life, was a few months later. I was in Spain on holiday or staying with a friend out there. And I was sitting reading a magazine and I flipped the page and suddenly there was a half page advert and there was this huge condor flying over Machu Picchu. And in that moment, every hair on my body stood up. It was just like an electric shock. And I just knew, I didn't know the how, I didn't even know the why, but I knew that I just had to go. And that those two things combined um, took me on a journey. So again, just think of a time in your life when something happened or someone called you or you had an aha moment or but you might not have understood it, but it actually did change something. You knew it mattered. So you might have parked it on the shelf for a while, but you knew that something had happened and something had mattered. So just take a moment just to contemplate that. So what followed all those events wasn't an instant transformation. For me, it was a period of about 10 years. And why did it take 10 years? Well, sometimes things do take time, but the main reason was that for me, there was a lack of guides, there was a lack of mentors, there was a lack of people to um, point me in the right direction, or at least give me a map to work with. And yes, thank you, Maggie. Um, I went to workshops, retreats, trainings, trying to understand who I really was beneath all this exterior noise. And I wrestled with my own shadows, self-denial, alcoholism, then everything was fine when it really wasn't, truthfully being a yes man, things that are very painful to admit when you're in it. But of course, there were moments I gave up or nearly gave up. But every detour, every dead end, every night that I thought I was failing, all became to be part of the teaching and the learning and part of the journey. And slowly I began to see what I thought I wanted wasn't really what my heart and soul wanted and what I actually needed. And that was a hard truth because as a youngish man, even though I was in my 30s, I was still ruled by my head and not my heart. You know, they're saying the longest journey a man can take is the one from his head to his heart. Literally, it's that, and that comes up a lot within groups and workshops. And when I stopped trying to control everything and force everything, I could then begin to open my heart. And then so much more began to change. And that takes me to the breakthrough or the high point. And it was a high point not because it was easy, but just because there was a moment of real deep realization. So I was at a workshop in Birmingham, and it was called Turning Point. Wonderful guy called Dr. Rue. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Rowan Weirasinger. Unfortunately, the gentleman, he passed away last year for cancer. But he was a wonderful, wonderful teacher, guide. But the event was about 300 people. So there was a lot of people there. And at the beginning, we had to do a little exercise. You had 2 minutes, find a partner, and you had to tell your life story in 2 minutes. Of course, you know one of those situations. Anyway, we did that on my way back to my seat. Suddenly, I felt this hand on my shoulder. And the hand said, "Can you come up on the stage?"
Mm.
And you can imagine that, like, oh my goodness. In the moment, it's like, oh, no, 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 don't know if I can do this. Anyway, I did, went up on stage. He handed me the microphone, gave me a pat on the back, and I went towards the front of the stage. And the most amazing thing happened. I didn't freeze. I didn't run away. I actually felt I was where I belong. I can't explain any more than that. I just knew that actually I should be in front of people. I should be teaching, guiding, whatever it was to come. So I knew in that moment that I had crossed a barrier. I'd crossed a threshold. And that's, really where it started. The next kind of phase of my life started. So when we talk about midlife crisis to midlife calling, for me, this is a real lived experience. So let's explore this a little bit deeper. But before we do, a quick recap. A quick recap that each of us reaches a point where old ways stop working. We don't see this as a failure, but we see us being called forward, our heart, our soul, whatever language you wish is in your way good, but it's a way of being called forward and called to go deeper. That we understand that for many people, this really does feel like a crisis. And there's many aspects to it. Our relationships can lose their spark. Our work can just feel like a drain rather than something that inspires us. And the distractions or addictions we used to use no longer numb that quiet ache deep inside. And that midlife is not a failure to fix, but it is actually a threshold and rite of passage. So this work, the work that I do, is about providing a map to help people to navigate this transition. And as I said at the beginning, I work with lots of different transitions and different groups of people. So we're going to move on now to the map itself. And the map has 4 stages. Of course, within each of the stages, there are many levels or many layers, but we're not going to go into all of that tonight. But the first part of the map is endings. What is, what has, or about to end. So every passage begins with something falling away. A job, a relationship, maybe a sense of identity. And endings are uncomfortable because they confront us with loss. And yet, at the same time, they can be sacred moments. Moments that signal to us that we can't hold on to who we were any longer. So that's the piece of endings. The next part of the map is separation. And that is about letting go of it. So the first part is recognizing it, understanding it. And there's a lot of work there. The second part is separation. It's getting to that place where we have the courage to let go of whatever it is we need to let go of. Obviously, the worst case scenario is you're in a relationship and that has to go. At another end, it could be you need to stop doing something you're doing in a particular way because it doesn't serve you anymore. So it's not always about losing everything, but sometimes the loss of something simple can still seem quite challenging. And so this is about the preparation for that, taking that big step forward. The next one is liminality, or the liminal space, the in-between space. In the work that I do, I call this the desert of ambiguity. This is a place where you feel upside down, confused. And this place is the space where all the deep work happens. But it's also the space where, if you like, the glimmer of hope, the glimmer of light, the something new, something begins to take shape. That can be around many different things, but often something which is more meaningful, more purposeful. So this is where a lot of the deep, deep, deep work in terms of our beliefs, our behaviors, those things that are buried deep inside that need to be released from all our experiences in life can get unearthed and brought to the surface. And the final one is the return. When we cross back, we come back with a sense of newness, with a sense of renewed vitality and purpose. And the return completes this passage. Now, what we bring back, so what we find on the journey that we bring back isn't just for us. It's for our families, our communities, and actually the world at large. Because that's what the midlife is asking us. It's asking us, what can we bring for the rest of our lives? And of course, today, without the guides and mentors of that many previous societies had, many people today go through a lot of loss and ordeal and find themselves in the liminal space or the desert, but they're not able to have that final return, because even if they do come back with something, where they come back to often doesn't understand what they've been through and what they're bringing back. So that's why, to support people, beyond just a program or whatever is a very important part of the work. So now we're going to have an opportunity to dive in a little more deeply. So where are you? Where are you in that phase? You don't have to say anything. You don't have to share it. It's just a question for you. Where are you? Are you at the endings? Are you at the return? Are you at the separation stage? You struggling to let go of something? Or maybe you feel like you're in the desert of ambiguity. Just taking a moment. Yeah. Thank you, Julie, for sharing. Hmm. Okay. So now we've kind of laid the foundations. We've got a bit of an understanding. I'm going to now take you through a little journey. So we're going to enter the heart of today's session, and I'm going to take you through a guided breakthrough journey designed really to help you listen to what's next for you or what's rising. So, okay. So in a moment, I'll invite you to close your eyes, and I will do a little bit of guiding along the way. Do not worry, there will be time. I will give you times to get to your pen and your paper to journal your thoughts and that. So there'll be plenty of time for that. Okay. So this first piece, the first stage here, endings, is about honoring what is falling away. Of course, that can be in many aspects of life these days, but relationships, work, roles, beliefs, ways of being that no longer serve. So just take a moment with the invitation to close your eyes and take a few slow breaths. And just contemplating, take a moment to begin to notice what in your life feels like it has ended, completed, or perhaps run its course. Now, of course, there can be various emotions and things like that. Sadness, there could be relief, there could be some resistance. Don't worry, they're all welcome. They're all welcome. Okay, so you can keep contemplating, but I'm going to just put a little bit of music on. And while the music's playing, once you've contemplated, if you want to put pen to paper, you're going to have about 4 to 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm just going to put the music on.
Just a fool for love is blind to danger. Is this fate? Then why should
And as you are writing, I've just put some additional prompts up on the screen to help you further, and that is maybe considering not just what is ending in my life right now, but what are you ready to let go of? Or perhaps what are you still holding on to, even though it has ended? So just a couple of extra prompts just to help guide you.
Shout it loud from a rooftop high. Let it burn inside. Untry only to fade and die. If I knew all there was to learn, every twist and turn, why do I still try?
Another 30 seconds. Okay. So when we honor what is ending, we clearing the way what wants to emerge. Everybody just give me a thumbs up if everybody's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely. Okay. Okay. So that was the endings piece. So now let us move on to the separation stage. So one is letting go. Now it's the preparation, or one is acknowledging. The first one is about really acknowledging. The second one is really the letting go, the big letting go, and stepping and moving forward. But we don't step yet. That's in the next phase. So this is the preparation to symbolically release really what no longer serves or doesn't need to be a part of you, and get you ready to cross the next threshold. So again, the invitation is to close your eyes. Again, you will have time, plenty of time for taking notes and journaling, and I want you to imagine you are entering a natural landscape, a place in nature. It might be a forest path, it might be a mountain trail, might be a riverbank, somewhere where there's a path or a trail. So once you have your place, begin to walk slowly. That place in nature, the path, the trail, or along a riverbank. And as you walk along, become aware that you are carrying what has been. Those old roles, those expectations, the old stories that you're still carrying. And as you do so, I want you to feel the weight of carrying those roles and expectations and stories. And as you keep walking, noticing the weight of carrying what has been. I want you to find a place, just that you notice a place. It just happens to be a place, doesn't matter what it looks like. It might be a little opening, it might be a tree trunk, it might be uh, an ant's nest, it could be anything. And I want you to imagine setting or putting down these things that are weighing you down, putting them down one by one, and putting them down with gratitude. Gratitude for what they've given you. And as you put them down, maybe take an extra deep breath or a physical gesture like opening your hands or bowing your head as you put each one down in acknowledgement. And as per last time, I'm just going to start some music. So when you finish putting them down, you may want to just write down your experience just as a little memory. And again, you'll have a few minutes.
just a fool for love is blind to danger. Is this fate? Then why should I hesitate when love would dance with a stranger?
Another 30 seconds.
Shout it loud from a rooftop high.
Okay. So at that part of the journey, we've done a metaphorical letting go, laying down. So now we're going to move. We're going to go into the threshold stage. And this is where we can allow our old identity to really dissolve. And also it's the beginning of the new space for insights and new things that can come into our lives. So one more time, an invitation again to close your eyes. And as you do so, I want you to visualize, and it can be a number of different things, but you might be in a misty environment. It could be the twilight, or you could be at a symbolic doorway. You are between worlds, no longer who you were, not yet who you're becoming. And in this space, you are safe to be unfinished. And I want to invite you to meet your inner elder or inner guide, a wise figure that carries your soul's wisdom. And I want you to ask this elder 3 questions. And again, you'll have plenty of time to write about this, but I want you to ask this inner guide, this inner elder of you, at this point, what truth do I need to face? The next question is, what wisdom must I remember? What wisdom must I remember? And the final question is, what is calling me forward? What is calling me forward? So again, all the questions are up on the screen. I will start the music and I will give you a 30 seconds to go.
In a waking dream, a recurring phrase I see come to pass my way. Still my heart, will you please be still my heart? In this world of change, you came turning me round again. In my mind, could it be that I'm just a fool for love? Is blind to danger. Is this fate? Then why should I hesitate when love would dance with a stranger?
How's everybody doing? Is everybody okay? Do you need more time? No, everybody's okay.
I think it's
Okay, lovely. So moving now from the threshold stage to the return, which is the final phase. And this is the phase of the journey where we come back with renewed awareness, feeling much more grounded and renewed in that sense of who we actually are. Some people say it's a new them. So, one last visualization, eyes open or closed, it's entirely up to you. But I invite you to imagine that you're walking back through a threshold. This could be a gate, a door, crossing over a bridge. And as you do so, as you're crossing the bridge or crossing the doorway, going through the gate, I want you to notice that you're carrying and bringing with you only what feels essential, only what feels necessary. And what you bring back with you could come to you as an image, a word, a feeling, because you're not the same as you were when you started. So what are you bringing back? What are you bringing with you? So there's 3 questions up on the screen. What insight or message did you receive or did you get there? What is one action or attitude or belief that you want to carry forward? And how can you honor what has changed? What insight or message did you receive? What one action or attitude do you want to carry forward? And how can you honor what has changed? A couple of more moments. And I invite you to trust what you have seen and felt today, because this is just the beginning of a journey. A journey towards your own call, to a deeper sense of meaning in your life, a deeper sense of authenticity, a deeper sense of who you really are. I'm going to move on to the next slide, called closing and integration. So if you'd like to share in the group, maybe just a word or a little phrase, what are you taking with you from tonight? What are you taking with you? Nice. The three C's. And clarity. Yeah, beautiful. It's a huge thing, clarity, because when we're a bit lost, when we're not quite sure where we are, getting clear on where we are and where we're going and where we've been is wonderful. So my hope is that from tonight you will see that a midlife transition is not a failure or something to be fixed. That maybe you can understand where you are on the map yourself, give you a bit of a marker, and that tonight you can leave with a tangible something to take away with you. So there will be a recording. So if you did want to revisit or review everything, I will send a recording out. I do have an apology. We had a technical glitch, and I noticed that a whole load of emails that should be going out after the event went out at the same time as the 1 hour to go reminder. I'm not sure how that happened, so I'll have to investigate. Maybe just delete those emails, and then you'll get new emails in the next few days. There's only three. I'm not going to bombard you with 1,000 emails. One will be a replay. One will be some resources, some additional resources, a PDF, an image of a much deeper image of the map that I talk about. So moving forward, if I could just maybe take 2 or 3 minutes of your time. I know we're kind of just on the hour, just to give a little kind of plug for my own work moving forward. There's only a couple of slides, so I really won't keep you long, and I really, really appreciate your time and thank you for coming. And as I said, I will be here if anybody wants to stay on and chat or ask any questions. So the first way for anybody to take any further steps and working with me is a foundation session. I won't work with anybody unless we've had a foundation session. Okay. It's a 90-minute session. It's a one-on-one session of obviously that as it is, but it's an introductory session where we lay the foundations for any future work. But it's an opportunity to find out where you are, for us to see and for you to feel, perhaps are we a fit to work together? And that's really important for me before we get into discussions about any, how we could move forward. So, yeah, the next one on the agenda after that, sorry, that costs £99 for 90 minutes. It's which can be found on my website under foundation-session. But for those that might go, you know what, I don't need a foundation session. I always try and push people that way, but occasionally I get somebody who says, no, I'm in. I'm so almost desperate that I need to get stuck in straight away with the deep work. I do offer a 6-month midlife journey program. And as I say, if something's stirred in you today that's very, very deep and you'd like to really go deep with this over a longer period. It's 2 sessions a month, so it's bi-weekly sessions. And more information on that can be found under my 6-month midlife journey, again, on my website. And beyond that, there will always be a number of events and workshops, gatherings. I do odd retreats, weekend work, day workshops, evening workshops. So there'll be a host of different things, all built around transitions and how we navigate transitions. So again, that can be found under events. A big thank you. And I would just like to finish with a poem, if I may. And it's from a poet that, again, this came to me during the early stages of my own journey, and it was very interesting. So it's from David White, and it's called Easter Morning in Wales. A garden inside me, unknown, secret, neglected for years. The layers of its soil deep and thick. Trees in the corners with branching arms and tangled briars like broken nets. Sunrise through the misted orchard. Morning sun turns silver on the pointed twigs. I have woken from the sleep of ages, and I am not sure if I am really seeing or dreaming or simply astonished, walking towards sunrise, to have stumbled into the garden where the stone was rolled from the tomb of longing. And that really resonated with me, various stages of that. When I started my journey, I was literally the garden inside me, unknown, secret, neglected. That inner, before I did years of inner work, and then coming to the end, moving towards, the stone was rolled from the tomb of longing. So, what are your longings? What are you longing for in your life? And I will leave you with longings. So thank you so much. Thank you.